Kenya is on the rise, and we are going to get there in terms of benefit. And I think for us as a people, we should tell the people, check what is happening, see what is happening with the president, and give him time. Things are about to change.
Yes.
Yeah.
What about the general foreign policy of the country as led by the president? How does that now augur in all this? How does this visit speak to the foreign policy of the country?
One, you see, the dynamic relationship between Kenya and the states has been existing, but it has never gotten to this place where the president has been honored in such a state. And that goes to show you that economically they are considering, and they have seen in matters of foreign policy, that the president is doing his bid in making sure that the nation of Kenya gets to that point. And so I foresee, because we are talking about iron politics, I foresee a scenario whereby that Kenya is going to benefit in terms of trade. Kenya is going to benefit in terms of opening the nation in terms of the continent and business per se. So for me, I foresee that it's going to be a good time. It's going to be a good time with this visit, and the effects will be, the ripple effects will be felt, and I wait to be a partaker.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mheshimiwa Katisia,
yes.
One of the things that the U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken said last year about Kenya is that Kenya has become, has matured in terms of democracy in Africa. What's your take on that?
I think I want to agree with the U.S. Foreign Secretary, because I think all of us who live in this country should also accept the reality that when it comes to democracy, we are trying. We have matured. If you compare Kenya 1992, when there was the fight for multi-party democracy, and now, I'm sure my brother Fadela, I think you may come from Nairobi, where there's a lot of democracy. I think we have to accept that we are slowly maturing into a democratic country. And I think that is what the US, of course, have been pushing for. You know, US, how it is even, how the politics is done and how it is, the government is constituted, it is democratic. You can't say that this is the particular side of the government or this is the particular side of the opposition. It is so democratic. So I think this strong relationship between the US and Kenya, though some people may read negative into it, I think personally, I take it positively, and that we should learn from our big brothers. If you look at our constitution, Mike and my fellow panelists, it is a replica of the US Constitution. Look at it. Yeah, we borrowed heavily from the US, and I think it's allowed that you benchmark with your elder brother or elder sister. In terms of democracy, our constitution is trying to create a country which is democratic. And we have borrowed a lot from the U.S. Constitution. So I think that statement by the U.S. Foreign Secretary is true. And I think what I can urge my fellow leaders is that let us try to fully implement our Constitution. There are some elements of our Constitution, especially the human rights element, which we also need to do our best and try to implement. But so far, I think politically we are trying. Other aspects of our constitution, we need to try better. Because when we come to the issue of devolution, that's where I can say that we need to do even better. Because if you go to US, you realize that the states are allowed to operate on their own and have a lot of independence, both financially and politically. But here in Kenya, you know, the replica of the states in US is counties. And you know very well that counties are struggling. But I think when you look at it nationally, I think we are good. But when you look at now the key specific issues, we need to learn more from the US and other democratic countries.
You want to add something?
Yeah, maybe just to jump in on what Mheshimiwa said, but I will, with a different opinion. Professor Gassen Salame authored a very interesting book titled Democracy Without Democrats. And if you look at the recent report by the Freedom House, it categorizes Kenya as a partial democratic state. Remember, when you're talking about democracy, this is something that is very huge. Huge in terms of there are some things which are at stake. For example, issues of neo-imperialism, they're at stake. For example, if we say we are a democratic state, how democratic are we? Matters to do with the rule of law, free speech, you know, and it was Abraham Lincoln who said that democracy is the rule of the people, by the people and for the people. If you take that context, can you say that Kenya is democratic based on those, you know, metrics? So there's so many things still at stake. Yes, we are doing quite very well in comparison to our counterparts in East Africa, but I think we are still punching below our weight.
What about the aspect of investment that the president looks to invest, and the kind of tax environment that we are experiencing now? What do you make of that? Is that going to be a hindrance to attracting the right impetus in attracting investments?
Absolutely, and this is my opinion, that raising taxes does not necessarily mean that Ruto will increase his revenue allocation. Remember, the issue from the beginning has never been the collection of taxes. It has been accountability, and that's a very key element when you are talking about a democratic state like ours. So these punitive taxes which have been introduced, in as much as I will say that yes, every government, every citizen is required to pay taxes, but what are the KPIs, the key performance indicators that yes, you know, we are paying this tax, but what are the deliverables? Are we getting something out of it? And just to go back to what my colleague said, you know, there are several pillars of Kenya's foreign policy, and one among them is the economic pillar, and that's what Ruto is, you know, propagating right now when he is going to the US. I think, in my opinion, that increasing taxes, you know, is not necessarily the best alternative in this measure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
In terms of what the speaker said, as it pertains to me being in Kanairo, Nairobi, as spokesman of Honorable Gakuya, the incoming Nairobi chair for UDA, democracy is at its best. Looking at the past election where our boss won 14 out of 17 constituencies. So, and looking at where he said coming from the 90s up to now, and looking at President Ruto where he is, democracy has been on the verge. And take you back to when the president, the judge, negated the presidential win. That was a first of its kind in the continent of Africa. So democracy has been on progress. And I think for the nitty-gritty of people who are painstaking and saying that it's not growing, they should realize that we are on course. And if we continue in the same pace, as he stated, if we continue in the same pace, we're about to see a progress that has never been seen in the nation of Kenya. And we just need to be patient. And so on behalf of the Nairobians, Kanairo, thank you so much for your support democratically for seeing the chair, Nairobi UDA boss, Honorable Gakuya.
Yes. Yes. What about the geopolitics of it, especially when it comes to Kenya being strategic in the larger Horn of Africa region? What does it speak to the geopolitics of this region?
Geopolitically, Kenya is like the Amsterdam of Europe. From Kenya, you have 4-hour flight anywhere. So we already strategically positioned. Now, the amazing thing about the strategic position of Kenya in the context of Africa, the international companies, there are too many of them here in Nairobi. So already that shows you we are positioned. The other day we had the United Nations guys who were saying they are coming all the way to Nairobi. Geopolitically, we are at the center. We are at the core. And if I put myself in the eye of the president, he knows this. And that's why even as he goes there, he's going to negotiate for this bidding as we are at the centerfold. How do we negate? There are 3 countries you need to watch in Africa. 1, Nigeria. 2, South Africa. 3, Kenya. Now, Nigeria is like, at the, in terms of the gun, it's like at the nozzle. South Africa is at the horn. And then Kenya is at the trigger of the gun. So whatever happens in Kenya geopolitically triggers all over the nation, the continent of Africa. And that's why I began by saying, when you look at President Ruto, it's Abomi continental. He's sorting continental issues. And so if in that trajectory, if we continue like that, geopolitical, we are going to see Kenya becoming the pinnacle and the apex of the continent of Africa. And I wait to see the better days ahead of us.